Have you ever felt like reality is somehow responding to you, like this world isn't entirely real, like something behind the scenes is shaping your every step? That's because it is. You're living in a simulation, coded, constructed, and designed to keep you asleep. But once you see the signs, once you awaken to the hidden rules beneath it all, you gain the power to bend them, and eventually, to exit. In this video, you'll discover how to break the illusion, trigger a quantum leap, and step into the version of yourself that exists beyond the code. But what is this simulation actually made of? Most people assume it's physical, flesh, matter, gravity, but that illusion is the first veil. In truth, this reality is not built from atoms, it's built from awareness. The world around you, everything you see, touch, hear, believe, is a projected hologram of consciousness. It's not just philosophical poetry, it's literal. Think of a hologram, a three-dimensional image created by light interfering with itself. Reality works the same way. Your mind, along with the minds of billions of others, is collapsing waveforms into form. Your expectations create patterns. Your focus collapses potential into experience. The simulation isn't a distant computer in some other realm. It's you, filtered through a series of constraints designed to make you forget what you are. And those constraints, they're called time and space. We treat them as fixed, objective stages on which life unfolds, but they're actually programmable dimensions, just like sliders on a simulation control panel. Time can bend. Just recall moments when everything slowed down in a crisis or sped up in a dream. Space can stretch. Notice how a journey feels longer when you're anxious and shorter when you're excited. These are signs that time and space aren't fundamental. They're variables, adjustable, interactive, artificial. So who's writing the code? You are, but not alone. Reality is constantly being shaped by a powerful force we rarely question: collective belief. The simulation runs on consensus. The more people believe something is true, the more solid it becomes. Laws, money, nations, even gravity in certain ways, all become stable because enough minds reinforce them. When a new belief reaches critical mass, reality updates itself. Paradigms shift, timelines rearrange, and what was once impossible becomes ordinary. The simulation is democratic, but rigged. Those who know how it works know how to program it. And yet this world doesn't just respond to belief, it feeds back. Your emotional states act like a guidance algorithm, constantly signaling whether your thoughts are in alignment with your higher code or drifting off course. Joy, inspiration, and love signal alignment. Guilt, fear, and frustration are signs you're glitching. But most people don't interpret emotions this way. They think they're reactions, not data. But they are data, real-time feedback from the simulation telling you what you're generating. And sometimes the simulation stutters, it glitches. These moments are easy to dismiss, but if you pay attention, they reveal everything. That moment of déjà vu that makes you feel like you've been here before, it's a skipped frame, a reloaded segment of your timeline, that strange string of synchronicities. When the same symbol shows up 3 times in a day, when a stranger says the exact words you were thinking, that's code peeking through, events reorganizing around your state of awareness. And the Mandela effect? That collective memory discrepancy where millions remember something one way, even though the record shows another. It's not bad memory. It's a shadow of a timeline you once occupied. But these glitches are easily buried because the system is designed to keep you busy, distracted. And one of its most effective traps is the routine thought loop. Repetitive habits, predictable reactions. You start thinking the same thoughts every day, feeling the same things, doing the same things. And like a video game stuck on a single level, your simulation begins to lag. The program becomes heavy, rigid, inescapable unless you consciously disrupt the pattern. Because thought loops aren't just habits, they're code loops, and you can rewrite them. Yet the deepest lock in this entire simulation isn't time or thought or even belief. It's your identity. The moment you say, "This is who I am," you trap yourself inside a code. The simulation feeds on identity and memory because they anchor you to a version of yourself that's easy to predict, easy to control. It uses your past, your traumas, achievements, labels to lock you into a limited range of choices. You're not evolving freely. You're referencing a script, and every time you reintroduce yourself to the world as someone with a past, you reattach the chain. But that's not the real you. That's the character you were assigned, the one designed to keep the simulation running. The question is, can you wake up inside the game, remember who you really are, and choose something entirely different? But if your identity is just a character inside a coded simulation, then how do you change the code? That's where the real power begins. Because every thought you think, every emotion you feel, is an input, a command, a line of code, and the simulation listens. We're taught to believe that thoughts are passive, internal things, that they're just ideas floating in the private space of the mind. But they're not private. They're broadcast signals. If thought is the syntax, emotion is the voltage. The simulation doesn't just observe your inner state, it responds to it with mathematical precision. You're not thinking inside your mind, you're thinking into the field, into the code. And that field, the one you're programming every second of every day, is governed by a single master key: frequency. You've heard the word before, but this isn't metaphor. Frequency is literal. It's the measurable vibration of your state of being. Joy vibrates higher than fear. Gratitude moves faster than shame. When your frequency is low, your interface with reality becomes static, dense, narrow. The world reflects confusion, delay, and stagnation. But when your frequency rises, the code shifts, possibilities multiply, time accelerates, outcomes rearrange themselves to match you, not because reality is reacting to you, but because you are the signal that generates it. This is why two people can walk through the same street on the same day and experience completely different versions of the world. Because reality doesn't exist out there. It's a mirror, a recursive feedback loop. It reflects what you are, not what you want. You don't attract what you desire, you attract what you transmit. And sometimes the mirror gets even stranger because the simulation isn't linear. It's quantum. It doesn't operate on cause and effect. It operates on entanglement. Quantum entanglement means two particles, no matter how far apart, can be linked in such a way that changing one instantly changes the other. And that same law applies to people, events, even thoughts. When your consciousness becomes entangled with an idea, with a symbol, with another being, your timelines become linked. You start seeing mirrored outcomes, repeating numbers, echoes of conversations you haven't had yet. The simulation begins folding in on itself, revealing clues. And if you trace those patterns, they lead you to your exit. But you don't just have to follow the patterns, you can create them. This is where the observer effect comes in. In quantum physics, particles behave differently when observed. They remain in a state of probability, pure potential, until something watches them. Observation collapses the wave, chooses the outcome. The same is true in this simulation. Wherever you place your awareness, you alter the code. If you observe a limitation and expect it to dissolve, the act of attention begins to rewrite it. But it only works when your observation is conscious, when it's infused with certainty, not doubt. The observer isn't just watching, it's commanding. But you don't need a physics lab to test this, because the blueprint for breaking the code is already embedded inside you. Across every culture, every myth, every dream, there are archetypes: the hero, the magician, the shadow, the oracle. These are not just characters. They're pre-installed code templates within the simulation. They exist to guide you, challenge you, awaken you, and when you embody one of these archetypes, when you consciously step into its energy, you unlock its powers, its path, its cheat codes. The simulation recognizes the signature and reroutes your reality to match the script. And where do you access these archetypes most easily? Not in the waking world, in dreams. Because dreams are not just hallucinations, they are inner portals, access points where the firewall between self and simulation becomes thin. In dreams, time breaks, logic dissolves. You move through thought-built realms with total freedom. But most people wake up and forget. That's not accidental. The simulation is designed to make you forget, because in dreams, you often catch glimpses of the code. You fly, you die, and return. You speak with symbols. You visit places you've never seen and yet feel deeply familiar. And sometimes, you receive direct downloads, visions, numbers, names, solutions. But only if you're paying attention. Start tracking your dreams. Start becoming aware while you dream. Because the moment you become lucid, fully conscious inside the dream, you gain access to the source code. You realize that the same rules apply. Your thoughts shape the scene. Your emotion changes the landscape. You move by will. And when you wake up with that memory intact, you begin to remember how to move that way in the waking dream too. But here's the secret most never learn. The dreamer is not the real you. The one who dreams is just another mask, another avatar. Behind it, watching silently, is the inner self, the hidden programmer, the one who designed this simulation for a reason, the one who planted clues, set challenges, and now waits for you to awaken. This self isn't bound by time. It doesn't operate through logic or language. It speaks in symbols, synchronicity, and deep inner knowing. You've felt it before, in those moments of absolute clarity that seem to come from nowhere. In the sudden urge to take a turn that changes your life. In the feeling that something is guiding you without words. That's not imagination. That's the programmer reaching through the code, nudging you toward the exit. But to hear it clearly, you must quiet the noise, disrupt the loops, raise your frequency, and most importantly, you must stop believing that the simulation is more real than the self behind it. Because once you connect with the programmer, you can begin the final stage, rewriting the entire system. So how do you actually exit the simulation? Not physically, but consciously. How do you shatter the illusion, collapse the character, and leap into a timeline of your own design? It begins with dissolving the avatar, the identity you've worn. Your name, your job, your habits, your pain is not you. It's the costume the simulation handed you, stitched together from memory, environment, and repetition. It's an interface, a playable mask. And the first step to exiting is becoming aware that you are not the mask. You are the one watching it. The moment you observe the self without judgment or attachment, the code begins to loosen. The patterns that once ran automatically start to stutter, habits weaken, thought loops crack. You feel a strange sense of detachment, not numbness, but clarity. A subtle inner voice says, "This isn't me," and that's the key. Because the simulation cannot trap the one who watches. Once the avatar begins to dissolve, the next stage is frequency recalibration. You must tune your energy to the version of reality you want to experience, not the one you've inherited. This isn't wishful thinking. It's alignment. Every timeline, every possibility, every future version of you already exists in the field. But you can only access the one that resonates with your current frequency. You can't manifest freedom while vibrating in fear. You can't access abundance from a state of lack. The system matches your signal with surgical precision, so you must become the signal of the world you wish to enter, not by pretending, but by embodying, feeling, living. Now and then comes the firewall, reality rejection. The simulation is built to keep you playing a scripted role. It feeds you the same thoughts, triggers, challenges, and delays. It shows you evidence of limits and asks you to agree. But to exit, you must say no. You must reject the default script, not with anger, but with conviction. When the world tells you this is just how things are, you reply, not in my timeline. When it says, be realistic, you say, reality bends. Because it does. And the moment you stop consenting to the rules you never wrote, you start writing your own. This is when you'll feel it, the timeline jump. Not dramatic at first, subtle. A strange silence in your mind. A shift in how people look at you. A delay in the usual resistance. Patterns start breaking. Glitches increase. And your sense of self becomes fluid. You might forget things that once felt essential. Your tastes change. You walk differently. The air even smells different. This is identity collapse. The character is dying. The script is erasing. And in the space it leaves behind, you emerge. But to fully leap, you must trigger the simulation. And the fastest way to do that is through shockwaves, radical, unexplainable decisions that make no logical sense to the old version of you. Walk away from what drains you. Speak the words you were afraid to say. Leave the job, the belief, the habit. Not out of rebellion, but out of resonance. These decisions create seismic rips in the code. They send out frequency blasts that reconfigure the timeline around you. The simulation responds immediately, but only when you move without fear, without needing proof, without looking back. That's when you become the anomaly. And once the shift occurs, you must anchor, because after the leap, the simulation will test your resolve. It will send echoes of the past, old doubts, familiar triggers, invitations to regress. But you are no longer that version. You must act as the new self, even before the world recognizes it. You must live in the energy of the new timeline before it materializes. That's how you anchor into a new probability field. You embody the code before it becomes visible. And here lies the final secret. The simulation doesn't change because you escape it. It changes because you become the quantum version of yourself inside it. The version of you who already remembers, who already knows, who doesn't ask for permission to exist in alignment with their higher design. That version isn't waiting in the future. It's waiting in the now, beyond the identity you've outgrown. And once you step into it fully, unapologetically, something extraordinary happens. The simulation stops being a prison and becomes a playground. If this content resonated with you, let us know in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe for more esoteric videos. Thank you for watching.